This is Josh and Jay's Excellent Video Game Show.
Hello and welcome to Josh and Jay's show, featuring Rowan Kaiser, episode 93. I am your co-host Josh, joined as always
by your co-host Jay, and joining us as always,
co-host Rowan.
Co-host Rowan.
Co-host Rowan the Feach Kaiser.
Welcome, everyone.
Rowan,
nice to see
yes,
you.
and Kaiser.
Rowan, yes, and Feach ass co-host Kaiser. That covers it, right?
It's not the preferred nomenclature. Well then.
Anyway, so Rowan, you got a nice new piece of hardware sitting on the table. It's looking pretty sexy, and I don't say that just about anything with Mario and Luigi on it. Would you care to elaborate?
I got myself a 3DS with my job money.
Yeah.
Hooray for jobs,
As
you
we
can buy toys.
Announced on a previous podcast, Rowan is now a professional.
Get on paychecks.
Get on Game of Thrones.
We're
Winteriscoming.net.
Winteriscoming.net.
This episode is brought to you by the Game of Thrones beer by Omgang Brewery.
We are drinking the Valar Morghulis, which is a double ale inspired by Arya Stark's quest for vengeance. That's what the bottle says. It tastes like a double ale.
It tastes like vengeance.
It's actually really smooth. Is vengeance
Hangovers
smooth?
are coming.
Vengeance is delicious.
And smooth.
Yes.
All right then. It's perfect.
Smooth and delicious. And
Is that your review?
also,
Vengeance is smooth and perfect.
Wait.
also vengeance will fuck you up.
Do you think that? Oh, we can swear. I always forget.
Yeah.
Rowan, you're biased. You can't review this.
Yeah, you
beer.
can't review
Because they
this
sent
beer.
it to me?
Yeah.
Well, that's why they sent it to me. I asked them so that I could review it.
Unless you paid double the normal price for this beer, then obviously your journalistic credentials are
No.
null and void.
No, I colluded with PR. The
That's
brewery
right.
didn't ask me to do anything. PR is fine. Like, those people are cool.
They sent you these fancy glasses. That's obviously,
Yeah, I didn't ask for the
buying
fancy
your
glasses, so, maybe I'll give them away. I might wash them before I give them away. I might not. You can get genuine Jay and Rowan saliva.
So you got a 3DS.
I got a 3DS.
Just in time for they just announced a new one.
Yeah, I don't care.
Okay.
review. I saw you guys were passing each other on the street or whatever you do with those things.
Yeah, I got a green light on my thing.
I don't know what that does. I just know that when I
There are
go,
games you can play with the other people. I don't know exactly.
there's one that's kind of like a baby RPG. You just scroll
Rogue
left to
Legacy?
right.
So like Paper Mario?
No, that's a good.
Is it
good
Rogue
RPG.
Legacy a baby RPG?
Okay.
I wouldn't really call it
Yeah,
an RPG.
I don't know.
Oh,
This is
okay.
way less than that.
Yeah.
So this is real simple. Like you
Okay.
just scroll left to right, and then you choose attack or magic, and that's it. And then you send all the people you meet on your 3DS to die.
Well, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
So it's like the Brian Jonestown 3DS game.
Yes.
Sounds fun.
So why did you suddenly get one? Is it just the money?
Well, I mean, I've wanted one for a while, but I read that the new Final Fantasy Theatrhythm Curtain Call 10, 14, Origins
Dash
game.
A, Section B, 6,
Yeah, dash A
7,
type.
9.
But why
Uh,
that game? Like, were you a big fan of the? It's a sequel or is it a reboot or what is it?
It's
Because there was a.
I guess it's like the Game of the Year version or
Okay.
something. Okay. I mean, I think they redesigned a lot of it, like the meta game.
like Street Fighter 4 X Alpha.
Yeah, it's closer to something like that.
Gotcha.
But they like redesigned the metagame and streamlined it so that like only has songs that are actually fun to play, which I guess was a problem with the first one.
And the first one was 3DS also.
Yeah. So I never actually played that one, but I had wanted to, and then I saw that they had like this.
This is
super-
your game though. Like this is like there's certain games for me I kind of go crazy. You've been talking about this game for a while. Like this is your
this is
this
like-
is your system seller. Literally.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a bunch of other games that I wanted to play. Like I borrowed yours and played Fire Emblem, and that was fun.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You were pretty into Fire Emblem.
Yeah, I that was my eugenics program, and that was pretty awesome.
If I can remember a DS game that you guys were playing, I feel like you must have been pretty excited about it. If I can remember
The
it.
Fire Emblems.
Yeah.
Fire's Emblem.
Fire's Emblem.
Is this game, this Final Fantasy rhythm game, is this RPG enough for me to like it? Or is
It's weird because it wants to introduce you to like all the RPG systems. Like there's this meta game where you get characters from all the Final Fantasy games,
or like Cloud?
like Cloud,
That's the only one I know.
Yeah. Wait, Eris?
Eris. Although they've transliterated her as Aerith, which was
Voldemort.
originally what she was supposed to be. Voldemort. Ishtola from Final Fantasy XIV,
Ishtola?
the classic character Ishtola from the massively multiplayer role playing game.
I just call him Ish.
Who's the girl? There's also the new girl. The one
Lightning?
Lightning.
Yeah, she's in there. I don't have her yet. So
Oh my god, did you guys see the Final Fantasy 15 trailer?
Lightning Returns.
That shit looks killer.
Final Fantasy 15, Lightning Returns.
Did you see it?
Actually, I didn't actually watch it. I
you
saw a
see
lot
it?
of people freaking out about it, though.
I didn't know. I
game
have
looks-
seen some of it. It's like a boy band road trip.
Yeah.
Yes.
It look it's sort of is it
But it
like
yes,
is
yes.
it like Persona Fantasy?
I don't know. It looked awesome though. It looked like a real video game that's coming out someday. You know.
Unlike Final Fantasy 13, which like they had to get 3 attempts at it, and maybe one of them was a real video game.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love Final Fantasy 13-3.
Lightning Returns.
Yeah,
Lightning
actually, that's a real
Returns.
game. You know.
No, it's not.
Yes.
Final Fantasy 13-3 Lightning,
Lightning
Returns
Returns,
is
yeah.
a real game.
They don't call it Final Fantasy 13-3, but it's the third Final Fantasy 13.
And they're all coming to PC.
Yep.
Starting with Final Fantasy 13 on
Steam-
October 9th. So
They-
Jay, get on PC.
Can't wait, man. I am counting down the days.
I like this new setup we got going on here.
I
I feel
I like that there is
Loose.
a franchise called Final Fantasy, and there are 15 of them.
You're
and
the
that there are
never-
three.
You're
They
the
never
first
end.
person to make that joke.
I'm
You're the best person to make that joke.
Thank you.
But also, there's 3 just of 13.
right.
Yeah, and there's 2 of X.
So, like, even
Yeah.
calling it Final Fantasy 13, like, that's not even the final Final Fantasy 13.
So there are 25 games whose music are included in this, and that doesn't even include all the Final Fantasy spin-offs. Like, it doesn't include the Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, which I'm sad about because I really like those.
We like those.
We like those.
We like those better than
original Final
original
Fantasy
Tactics.
Tactics.
Just call it almost done with the fantasy.
I was going to
13.
say that I like this new space. That
Yeah,
we're in.
we just for the people watching at home on YouTube, we're in the new studio. So if you hear cars driving by, it's
Yeah.
because we're set up in the garage after our
It's a work in progress.
after our guru and and yogi of podcasting, Mark Maron.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but we got some work. We're getting some soundproofing stuff, and it should be better.
today's the rawest podcast that you will
Raw.
hear. It's
Where's
raw,
Josh
bro.
and Jay show, the fucking rawest motherfucking video game podcast.
It's pretty raw,
We
bro.
are bleeding fucking edge.
Bleeding
This is like
edge.
cutting yourself on that new Nvidia card.
That's right.
How can we work an X into episode somehow?
Yeah. Episode 93.3. Lightning Returns.
The Vanishing of Joshua Doan.
So they work RPG elements in.
Yeah, so like you have 4 characters in your party, and there are three different like kinds of battles. There are 2 main ones, which are like field music, where you're just like walking along to like kind of the calmer songs, the traveling songs, and like the town songs for the Final Fantasy games. And you walk along, and like if you mess up, then you trip, and the next character starts walking. I guess trip. I don't know if trip is what the game says it is, but the character on the screen just like keels over, and then the next guy goes. And then there's also the battle music, which is much more exciting, where you're like up against monsters, and you try to get critical hits by getting like the exact rhythm right. And if you get chains, at certain
Are your characters
points-
persistent?
What do you mean?
I mean, is your party persistent from battle to battle?
Yeah, I mean you can change it.
Right, but they level up.
They level up.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what-
if that's what you mean.
Yes,
I find
because
that
when I look at the
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna, when I look at screenshots for this game and the trailer and stuff, every battle looks like a whole different thing, and I was just wondering if it's just a series of randomness, or you do really have a persistent kind of RPG character like building.
Yeah,
thing.
they level up, and like certain characters have certain stats which are supposedly better for different battles. Like you want spirit in the traveling things, and you want like agility and strength.
Why
in the
supposedly?
battle.
Is it bullshit or it doesn't make sense or what?
I mean, that's what it front loads the tutorial. It's like,
Whoa, how dare it?
yeah, I like a Japanese game with like a tutorial that goes really crazy initially. So it's like I'm trying to figure out like how to press each button in the battle. Like, okay, what does the green thing do? Oh, the green thing means you hold down the stylus on the screen. That makes sense. And it's like for battles, you want to use characters with high spirit and these kinds of abilities and traits, or for traveling, you want the high spirit, and then for battles, you want the high agility, and I'm like, dude, I have like 4 level 1 characters. I don't even know how to like press the buttons right. So,
Oh, you mean front load? They tutorialize stuff that you're not at yet. In
yeah,
the game. Gotcha.
they're like describing what I should be doing at like level 30 when I'm level 1.
Yeah, because you'll remember
Right.
up until that point, and then it's always. I'm sorry, I hate it when games do that because then you know eventually have to dig through some sort of help menu and try to find like, well, where the hell did I see this? And which is for some reason 10 times more tedious and less efficient than just looking it up on YouTube or something.
Yeah, there are like 3 different settings menus. There's like I'm supposed to get things that change the colors of the crystal of the background of the game, and I can't find it. Like I keep getting rewards. You have a new color, and I'm like, cool. Where is this menu that I can change that?
Bummer.
But
the combat sounds kind of cool. Going back to the rhythm-based combat, it's not like 1-to-1 live action combat though, right?
No, it's like if you mess up totally, the monsters hit you. If you like mess up a little bit, you don't do as much damage.
So it's sort of like a quick time event on a bit of a gradient.
Well, you know how Rock Band works, right? You have the like perfect, and then the great, and then the good, and then the bad, whatever.
So it's sort of like the solos, how the solos will grade you based on what percentage of the solo.
No, it's like each individual note or whatever.
Okay.
Like if you don't, is it Rock Band that does that?
Rock Band, if you're doing vocals, for instance, it will measure each phrase of lyrics and then will give you a score of either excellent.
I'm just talking about the individual thing. Like if you're doing the drums, like does it give you like a score based on how close you are? Or does it just say yes or no?
No, with drums, it's either you hit the note or you didn't.
Okay. Then it's more like the Dance Central, which has the like.
Yes,
perfect, good.
There's a gradient.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like if you get the perfect in this, it's a critical, so you do more damage.
Gotcha.
That's cool.
And so like you want to get as many criticals as you can. And like the monsters like have a certain amount of hit points, and you don't actually see this, so it's a little difficult to say like how much of an RPG it is. But theoretically, like if you have high strength characters getting those criticals, then the monsters will die quicker, and you'll get more stuff, and the stuff will make it easier to do quests that are like these quest modes that are like simple sort of choose your own adventure paths, where it's like you can do a field song from Final Fantasy IX or a battle song from Final Fantasy 13.
Okay.
And you can get a key if you go to this one, and you can get like a save point if you go to this one. And
Crazy.
It's like a good way that gets you like some reward out of not just doing the same songs over and over. Mm-hmm. So that seems like a pretty clever thing that they've done. And then there's also like these collectible cards that you get, and you can give the characters the collectible cards, and that will boost their stats.
You get into the stuff though, because what was that game you were playing on your phone all the time with Brad Galloway?
Marvel Puzzle Quest.
Yeah.
That didn't have this level of customization, but it's like I see all these things, and it's like every battle that I do or every song that I do, it's like if I hit the notes, then I win. So like this is like for if I'm playing for like 15 hours, I feel like then I want to start customizing all this crap and like doing super hard songs and these really tough quests. But right now I'm just like, I've done, a third of the 212 songs. So
Crazy.
I don't really like feel like I need to be customizing all this stuff that they're giving me to customize. So I'm not sure that the RPG stuff is like in a good balance with the just regular gameplay.
Yeah.
But
And it goes without saying that like you have to have headphones on and stuff to play this game.
it's pretty good with the 3DS speakers.
It seems like it would be difficult to marry those genres a little bit.
Yeah, it's not a perfect marriage, but it is.
But it's super interesting.
But, like, what's-
the concept is very interesting.
But aren't there like didn't people already successfully do this? What like with a Puzzle Quest or whatever?
I mean, Puzzle Quest is
But
like,
it's
mean,
not a
they-
rhythm game, is
But
it?
no, but I mean with like Match 3 games they've done.
Yeah.
But
lots of RPG
it's
stuff.
I feel like it's different with a rhythm game because those like mechanics are so
But if you look at-
specifically not really necessarily taught. Like for instance, an RPG can be, you can measure XP in a lot of different ways, like enemies killed or tasks completed or whatever. But with a rhythm game, like it can be tricky because I know from playing Rock Band, some songs are just, you're going to get a higher score on them because there's more notes in them. Some songs you're going to get a lower score because there's lower notes on them. You'll still, like a gross score. So you have to figure out a way, how can we make, like, level the playing field so that there's a consistent progression kind of a thing, I would imagine.
I think they have that pretty well. It's
Okay.
just like there's all this stuff that's like late game. You want to have the Final Fantasy players min-maxing all this stuff that like introduces immediately that I
There's-
don't care about yet.
There's
I'm always
but there's
reckons-
rhythm games
yeah.
built into some RPG battle
There-
systems already.
There's rhythm game elements, which is funny to say that RPGs have rhythm game
They
elements.
do though because you have like
right?
the timed attacks
Yeah,
like in
the
the Paper
Paper
Mario,
Mario,
games
for sure.
Shadow
And the
Hearts had that.
South Park had that.
South Park yeah, for sure.
So it seems like it's barely there. So it's not like it's
Yeah,
it's not like they're almost.
I like rhythm game elements.
There's also this Crypt of the Necrodancer game on Steam that's like an RPG or a rhythm game roguelike.
yeah. The Arkham games, the Fable games,
Yeah,
sort of have that.
well, the Arkham games, I would
Fable
say,
does.
the Arkham games, I would say, absolutely have that. The Fable games, try to implement that, but it's
the
that's
Fable
like
games
one of my
did
most
have
frustrating.
something that I never got the hang of, where I think if you did attack to the beat of the music, it would do something.
Yeah, well, we just not to go back to Risen, Rowan, but like the combat
But
in
we're
Risen,
going back to Fable.
But the combat in Risen
apparently.
is very rhythm based.
Yeah.
Too.
Yes, yeah.
It is a brawler. I mean, Risen in all when it comes down to it, it's an RPG brawler.
If you press X with rhythm, you will do better than if you don't.
if you just
Fighting
button
games,
mash.
yes.
Yeah.
Fighting games obviously have that rhythm built in.
But the Arkham kind of brought in specifically like a.
Fighting games are different though because the rhythm is not
Because it's jazz
It's
instead
not
of
set.
rock. It's not 4/4.
exactly. It's jazz instead of rock. It like the time signature shifts.
Yeah. Whereas Arkham, there was like a rhythm to it. Like a
Arkham is punk rock. I mean, Arkham is a fast 4/4 beat, and you just keep repeating it and trying to keep double kicking that bass pedal as long as you can.
Street Fighter is Autechre.
Street Fighter is Aphex Twin.
So
So
I
yeah,
think there's
I don't want that game.
There's like 212 songs plus DLC songs, so I have 213 because there was a free one for like people who bought the game early, and that's a little imposing. But it's a pretty good demonstration that Final Fantasy has had a lot of good music. If you like,
Hey
Final
man,
Fantasy
you're
music.
talking to a guy who has over 1,000 Rock Band songs.
Yeah, but like Rock Band doesn't give you that right off the bat. Rock Band gives you like 60 when you get the new game.
Right.
And then you're like, okay, I can import the other Rock Band songs. I can like do all this, but like I feel like there are probably trophies for like doing each song on each level. It seems like it's building to that. I should probably double check on that. So I kind of want to do all the songs on easy, but I kind of want to move on to medium.
You're talking about the Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot of trophies.
Yeah.
Get on trophies.
And then like when you do this, you unlock the other characters. So like it starts with you start with the party that you choose for of like the main character from each main Final Fantasy game.
Do you have to progress to unlock songs?
There are there's also these like I forget what they call them. I think they call them EMS, and I don't remember what the E stands for. But they're basically the intro videos to each of the Final Fantasy games, which play in the background as you do a specific type of thing. So there's a third kind that's like you're watching the cool video with explosions in the background and stuff.
Okay.
Because Final Fantasy can make a fucking intro video.
I've seen Final Fantasy can make some videos. Aren't there Final Fantasy games that are pretty much all just video?
I don't know.
Just cut screens.
There was that movie.
Oh,
yeah, it's got the Advent Children. Some of the Advent Children.
I saw that.
It doesn't have the Spirits Within, which is
I saw the Advent Children was the first movie, right?
No, Spirits Within was the one that was like not based on the game. Advent Children was the one that was like Final Fantasy VII, the movie.
Okay, Spirit Within was the one that was not based on anything, but it at the time
Tentacle penises.
At the time, the animation was so like insane that
Yeah.
I remember forgetting that it was animated.
Yeah,
like,
they're
halfway
pretty
through
good.
it.
They're like Blizzard. Like they're really good.
I mean, it was seeing that in the theater was like again for somebody who had never played a Final Fantasy game. I was like, oh great, this is apparently not connected to anything, so I don't have to be a Final Fantasy fan to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I saw it in the theater. Don't remember anything about the movie other than it looked incredible.
Rowan, you might have already talked about this. I'm not sure if I was paying attention, but so you just pick songs. You don't like traverse a map or a world. map?
There's like this Quest Bentley thing where you traverse
There's
a
an
map.
adventure mode.
There's an adventure mode, and there's like a song picking mode.
and you usually skip adventure mode when you're playing anything, right?
It depends on the game.
I
but-
feel like in the basketball game you guys played, like you guys had two very different.
yeah, but that was a
approaches
different
to-
thing. Like
There's
I was still
two
getting
totally
a progression.
different. There's two totally different modes. Like,
Yeah.
we were playing. It's like
But
two
weren't you
different-
playing like the adventure mode?
He was
Like-
playing like
yeah.
the role playing adventure
Yes.
mode, and I
Right.
was playing like the strategic mode.
Right.
But there was still like a progression in it.
Okay, so
so it's
with
just
this-
a different sort of.
So with this
progression.
one, what are you doing?
I'm mixing it up.
Okay.
Like I'm like
Mixing it up.
I'm doing
Breezy, easy breezy.
I'm doing the adventure mode to like poke at that, and then I am like going and just picking random songs from the other one to try to like collect the whole set or whatever, and just like get used to it because I went to medium on a song that I didn't know.
Can you go to shops and buy stuff?
No, you do get your characters progress and they get skills, and you can like you have like only certain amounts of points, and you can like have to fit as many skills as you can into those points.
Ooh.
So like I started with Terra, who it has chosen as the protagonist of Final Fantasy VI,
Yeah.
which is probably my favorite, and she
I thought
has
10 was your favorite. Dog, you made me play that shit.
Is it 10-2 or 13-3?
Was that like the most long con troll ever to get me to play Final Fantasy X?
I mean, Final Fantasy X is right behind.
Oh, okay.
That's your like Kobayashi moment. And all of a sudden you see like the picture of the orca fat woman on the wall and like the saucer with that says like what was that character's name?
Terra?
Terra. The bottom of the saucer says.
Yes, that's terrible. I should play. I never played 6.
That's on Steam now, which is weird to think.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think I want to
they're almost
say
all on
I want to
Steam
say my
They're not
my
almost all
brother, who, as far as I can tell, is the most hardcore Final Fantasy fan I've ever known. I think that 6 might be his favorite.
6 or 7 are usually people's
I don't want to
favorites.
speak out of school. It definitely wasn't 7. I want to say 6 is his favorite, but he was like that kid who got the imports of
Like the Japanese.
of 4,
Yeah.
5, and
He
6.
said he learned Japanese in order to play them.
Well, that and to watch Sailor Moon in Japanese.
Well, obviously.
But yes.
I mean, that doesn't even need to be said.
yeah.
Almost all the mainline Final Fantasies are on Steam, aren't they?
Not almost all, but
6, 7, 8.
I don't know. Is 8 on there yet?
I think 8's on there. I don't think 9's on there.
9 was never ported to PC, so that would be a
10
surprise.
is not on there.
Yeah.
Like
11
an 8 out of
is.
10. Like
11
8 out
is.
of 10.
12 is not on anything.
12 is
How
not-
many 13s are on
3.
Steam?
Well, the 3 of them are going to come, but none of them are on there yet.
Okay.
You can buy the first one, or you can pre-order the first one.
But if you add all those together, you might get to a most.
We'll probably put an infographic up on the show
Well,
notes.
this-
It'll be a
This
look.
depends on if you count Final Fantasy 13-2 and Final Fantasy 13 Lightning Returns as part of the main series.
Someone should make a flow chart for people like me about which Final Fantasy game they should play. That's like, oh, do you like this kind of gameplay or this kind of gameplay or this kind of story or this kind of story? And
this
then it
is
would
the
take
funny
you.
thing about Final Fantasy is that like everyone has such strong opinions about whichever one, and they're all total bullshit to everyone else.
Yeah.
So like I could say that Final Fantasy VI is my favorite, and then I can like say, well, it's got this combination of things, and somebody could easily go and be like, well, yeah, this other one has this same combination of things, but it also has this, and
It's also all based on like crazy, like 20 years of nostalgia and where how old you were when you started playing them.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think any other series of games has as many factors going into it that decide what your favorite
Yeah.
entry in that series is, because it's got the nostalgia factor. It's also the fact that there are I mean, how many different styles of gameplay and genre have gone into different Final Fantasy games? Like they're all so different.
Dragon Quest has gone along roughly the same time
so
period.
They're all kind of the same.
But they're all very similar games, and like they are super grindy.
They're all attack, defend, magic.
I mean,
where Final Fantasy has gone crazy with different battle systems, different magic systems.
Yeah, I mean, there's Final Fantasy that's got. Isn't there a Final Fantasy game that has almost like what's that?
Blitzball.
No, that's got like real time combat, like action combat.
15.
Oh, is it?
I don't know. It's hard to tell. Looks like it. There's like 12 has this like gambit. 12 has like Dragon Age where you set up you program the AI to do
like
what you want.
What's that series?
But on 12 you don't like 12 you just hit go and they just go.
What's that series that Hyrule Warriors is based off
Dynasty
of?
Warriors?
Dynasty Warriors.
Isn't there like a Final Fantasy Dynasty Warriors type game?
Think
or no?
So, but I do know that they're just like shitting those things out like every month now.
Yeah.
Like, there's a Zelda one. There's a Dragon Quest one that's coming out.
I haven't seen that, but I mean, yeah, they've been doing it with like various anime series in Japan, and some of them come over. Like, there's been Gundam Dynasty Warriors for several years.
Yeah, I remember seeing that one.
But yeah, they seem to be franchising that out, and I hope they get to like a franchise that I really care about. Because
So, Rowan, are you and I going to be getting into what's it called? Oh God. Now Monster Rancher's in my head.
Monster Hunter.
Monster Hunter for the 3DS when it comes
Rancher.
out. Monster Hunter.
Those are
I would like to try one.
I would
of
like to
those.
get into it so bad, but I can't do it alone.
Dude, what's your favorite flavor Monster Rancher? I like strawberry.
I'd love to go back to the ranch.
red ones. Like, give me a headache. Like, whatever dye they use in those, especially the watermelon.
In the Monster Rancher?
Yeah. the Monster Ranchers.
REM's Monster made like this sick ass dragon in Monster Rancher. And my CD, my first real CD that my band made like the weakest, dumbest like monster. It was called a Suezo, I think.
Suezo? Is that like Patrick Swayze, but
I don't know.
but Bizarro
Pain
Patrick
don't
Swayze?
hurt.
There was a lot of cool stuff.
The Suezo, he's like, everybody puts baby in a corner.
You guys want to talk about Monster Rancher?
No.
Sure, why not? We're talking about crazy Japanese games.
Nintendo.
I'm talking about a video game that is based on the video game music of 30 years of games.
That's
Like,
pretty cool.
wow, that's awesome. Like,
Sorry.
Monster Rancher, go nuts.
Well, take a short break.
Yeah, we'll be right back.
Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
What's our email theme music?
Oops.
The Hammer Brothers
That
again.
one doesn't seem to work. I'll get something going.
There we go. This is good email music.
Emails.
Emails.
All right, our first and last email comes from Ethan.
What's up,
That's
Ethan?
a good segue.
Yeah.
Was it?
Or is
Are
it-
you being condescending?
No, is his last name happen to be Carter?
It's
Did he vanish?
G-A... Well, I don't want to read his last name. Should I read his last name?
No, don't read his.
Okay.
Oh, I know him on Twitter.
Oh, you do? From Philly?
Ethan from Philly.
Ethan writes in. Ethan says, Destiny is getting nailed for surprise, not living up to Bungie's preview promises, and uber amount of repetition in it as a result of the game's currently narrow scope. But of course, lots of games are really repetitious without necessarily being as grating as Destiny. What, in your minds, distinguishes successful repetition in a game from when it's done poorly or relied on to simply pat out content, says Ethan. At Ethan, Gach on Twitter.
Okay, number one, I'm just gonna. The first game that came to mind that is the kind of repetition that I do not mind in games is Crackdown. Like that.
Oh, the best video game.
The best video, yeah, like that. So there's
most
something,
perfect game ever made.
I usually do not enjoy a lot of repetition in games, but Crackdown is an exception to that rule for me. So
Like, what is the game you play the most?
Rock Band.
That is like nothing but repetition.
Yeah, but that's music is different.
But
Of
it's
course,
not
music
that
is
different.
repetition.
Let's assume that it's not that different, and let's say,
Okay.
do I like repetition?
Okay,
I can tell you right now what the difference is. The difference is in Crackdown or in one of the numerous farming games I like. I'm getting, or World of Warcraft or anything, I'm getting
sense of progress. Yeah.
that in Destiny is just not coming fast enough. And even when loot does drop, I don't even know. It's like a little green glowy thing. It's not exciting.
This is exactly
that's what it is.
This is exactly, if we go back to the podcast where we talked about the beta versus the alpha of Destiny, this was my biggest complaint. I was like, when I liked the alpha because I was picking up loot left and right. I was upgrading my character
Getting them
like every
perps.
5 minutes, getting them perps. Getting them, like Snoop Dogg, getting them perps, man.
Yeah, I mean that to me is the
And it was
So,
rad because it
hold-
was like gear after gear. What's
So-
up?
what.
Do you get that sense of progress from Rock Band?
Well, it's slowed down, but I still do because there are like when I play with my wife almost every day still for like the past 7 years or however long that game's been out. We like probably play it 4 or 5 times a week. And the thing that we do now is keep track of how many songs that we have gold starred on Expert as a band. Like
Yeah.
she sings on Expert, I play drums on Expert.
I come over and play the guitar.
Yeah, well, it's like those are. I think
Rowan comes over and plays the guitar.
I think
What the fuck?
I think he has maybe once before.
Oh, really?
I never actually have.
What else? What
We
else
should
do you
that
guys
at
do
some
together?
point.
Rowan and I. Oh, we
go
take
to
long
Great
walks
America?
on the beach.
Okay.
Do
all right.
Some sex, a little shopping.
600.
Well,
We went to the
cool.
bar.
Sounds like you guys have.
Skee ball. We
you
skee
guys went to the
balled.
bar without me.
Oh, that's true. We did. Rowan was in the city and heading back on BART, and we met up for some skee ball and beers. That was the thing that happened. Sorry, Josh.
I had to move.
Yeah.
But getting back to the sense of progress in Rock Band, we still are gold starring new songs, like songs that we've played 20 times before.
Yeah.
And now here's the time where we got enough points as a collective where we're still we actually have over 50% of the songs gold starred on Expert that we
That doesn't
own.
sound like
Of your
a lot.
1,000 plus.
That sounds like a small amount.
You think that
7 years.
You think that 520 some
Get it
songs
together, Jay.
being gold
You need
starred
to go
sounds
home
like a
right now.
small-
How many songs are there?
Well,
There are over 1,000 songs?
in the entire game. There's over 2,000.
You know, also you're creating social emergent gameplay, like just like being around someone and like playing together. I mean,
Yeah.
that helps too. I mean,
I
people,
mean, rhythm games are still good on your own.
yeah, but I mean, people play Call of Duty or Halo multiplayer over and over and over and over
Yeah.
and over the same maps, but they have that social kind of thing
Well,
and little like moments that happen.
Why do I
different
play
every time.
Alpha Protocol over and over and over and over again?
But that's
why
not
does
repetitious.
Why does Rowan play?
I think we're
know,
getting
it's-
into the woods. Like that's not really repetitious gameplay.
You're right. You're right. We're talking about on a micro level, not a macro
yeah,
level.
Yeah.
So Crackdown, it's because every time you get in that car, it might transform into something a little bigger than it did last
Yeah.
time.
Guys, I in Mass Effect 2, is that the one? Yeah, I S ranked the planets
Yeah.
because I thought
You got all of the resources.
yes, I thought I scanned them. Well, no, I scanned them. Yeah, I scanned them all to 100%.
Good
Like,
job.
everything.
Now
But I
you can
thought
kill yourself.
I would get something
Oh,
for that.
No.
Yeah, I did not.
You get a
Did
lot
you get
of
a sense of
resources.
accomplishment?
Yeah, sort of. But then the DLC added more planets.
Did you get a feeling that you would never play the game again after this time?
I don't know. I was just in the zone. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I just
You were
Yeah,
you were in,
I just threw
I
out
know
some-
of people who like they put on some podcasts,
Yeah,
they put on some albums,
yeah.
and they just like scan
Yeah.
50 planets
yeah,
in a row.
I just was in that zone. But
Planet.
why was that okay? You know, I don't know. But I knew that I could stop any time and I could go do other stuff. Also,
That sounds
you know?
like somebody who does a lot of heroin, though, too.
No, because I wasn't really getting anything
I
out of
could
it.
stop any time and go out in the world and do stuff.
No, I know what you mean, but that's actually a good point. In Destiny, there's nothing else. There's not like, oh, I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
I could shoot some Eclipse mercs, but
Yeah.
I'd
Right,
rather
right.
like find some Illyrium. Or,
Well, yeah. Going back
That's
to Destiny, like I swear, if you listen to that whatever episode it was where we talked about that, I was way turned off by the beta because they had made that switch to make loot incredibly scarce, like good loot. There's a bunch of crap, and I think it was in Kirk Hamilton's amazingly excellent review
yeah.
of that game.
Remember Kirk Hamilton?
Yeah,
yeah,
friend of the
that's a
show.
Good
that
review.
was some vintage Kirk Hamilton
yeah,
shit.
yeah,
Kotaku
yeah.
blog?
I like what you said on Twitter. Like he went full Kirk.
Yeah, he did. He went full
He
Kirk
did.
on that thing.
Did.
But he mentioned that even if you do finally get a piece of purple loot of something good, there's only a 1 in 3 or 4 chance that it's for your class.
Yeah.
which otherwise it's useless. So the 1 in 100 times that you get a good piece of loot, only 1 in 4 of those times is it even usable.
Yeah.
So like 1 in every 400 fucking
And it
pickups.
binds on pickup, so you can't just like give it to a friend, and you like don't get anything from getting rid of it.
Yeah, and you don't know, like, so there's something with, like, if you get a green, there's only, like, a 60% chance it is green when you go...
Oh, that's the other thing is that if you get if
like
you
whatever
get
color it is.
yeah, if you get like because purple are like the most rare.
Yeah.
So even if you get a purple like engram, is that what they're
Yes.
called, the encoded things, and then
Yeah.
you take it to the
Yeah.
guy to decode it, he's like, guess what? There was a green item
Yeah,
in this
yeah,
purple
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
and you're like,
Which is
fuck
worthless.
you, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that
But
is
people
some bullshit.
This game is really clicking with people. They all seem to agree it's bad, but they all can't stop playing it also. So a lot of people are really into it.
That's always an interesting gap where people's experiences with like what they say that they like is not necessarily what they actually like.
Sure.
And I think that's a good open door for criticism to come in and say what is
Yeah.
actually working here. And
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
I think Kirk did well.
yeah,
yeah.
he really all he did was address that gap.
So do you guys know about the
loot cave?
concept,
The butthole.
the butthole, the concepts of intrinsic and extrinsic motivation?
I believe so.
Yeah, so like it's the idea. Intrinsic motivation is I want to do this because I want to do this, and extrinsic motivation is I want to do this because I'm getting paid or I'm getting a reward for this.
Right.
And I think that what we're getting at here is that the extrinsic motivation has to be balanced better than Destiny's. Like, you're playing Rock Band because you want to play Rock Band.
Right.
Right.
Like, you enjoy the act of playing Rock Band.
The thing about that makes Rock Band so cool is that at first the extrinsic motivation is what got my wife on board, because she was like, "Oh, you mean I get 5 stars if I do this well on the song? Oh,
Right,
you mean
right,
I
yeah,
get
yeah,
gold
yeah.
stars if I do this? Oh, you mean it will rank me as being in the top 20 of all the people who who have sang this song on the leaderboards if I do this well?" And then once we exhausted like all of those rewards, I mean, up to the point where it's definitely like it tapers off, right? You can
Yeah.
only play all the songs that you can do well on, and then eventually the rewards start to taper off. But at that point, like, we're invested and we're just into the gameplay in general. And do you think that's similar to what's happening
That's a
with
good
Destiny?
point. I think that's a really good point. I think that it's a little like what I talked about with on our last episode, Waka's Bad Hair Day, with the Warcraft thing. Like, they're catching. Destiny's catching that thing where they have like psychiatrists working for them, figuring out how to make you play video games.
Yeah.
but it's not catching the thing where I want to go explore, like Warcraft had, like we talked about. Like,
Yeah.
I want to. I can't wait to go jump in here. And
There are
explore
intrinsic motivations to playing World of Warcraft.
Right.
Like, at the early levels, it's like, you get to see cool shit. Like, that's a
Yeah.
beautiful world.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, you get to wander around, you get to go over hills, it starts raining, you get to go into those, like, gorgeous eastern continent forests where the trees are all purple
Yeah.
and
Or your
stuff.
first large town and the music starts playing, like
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And then, like, when you get better, like, when you do the raids and you're fighting these giant-ass dudes and they're really hard to kill, but then you, like, your team all comes together and it's like, holy shit, this,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
we took this guy out and it seemed impossible.
Which apparently
like,
is
the
in
first,
Destiny.
Which it apparently is, but, like only much
Yeah.
later and not what people are getting to.
Also, the quests are kind of like, I was thinking about this. You know, in SWTOR, you go and there's fully voiced quests.
That's a good example of repetitive gameplay that
yes.
that I actually got down
Yes.
with.
And you meet people, and it's a character, and the character's telling you a story, and then you go do that quest.
And it's also a
Or-
good example of rhythm-based RPG combat.
right.
That the timers on that, like with World of Warcraft, and I assume with like high-level SWTOR players, like people would be like, they would have like exact rhythms that you're supposed to type in.
Yeah, that hotkey bar, it's
Yeah.
just a very slow recorder.
3, 3, 2, 1.
It's
3.
just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
back
yeah.
in the
Yeah,
fifth
yeah,
grade
yeah.
music class, you're playing notes on the recorder.
So with Destiny and the quest, real quick.
Yeah.
So the SWTOR quest, you have these characters and they're fleshed out and they give you quests, right?
Right.
Or you have these, and a lot of RPGs have them, these kind of side questy things where you just go up to a computer terminal and it just spits out a quest for you. Destiny only has the computer terminals. Like, it doesn't have the characters that, oh, this is a named person telling me to go do something that makes sense. It only has kind of like the generic kind of side questy stuff.
It's
Yeah.
It all feels very generic. I mean, the only thing that had me interested in that game because not the environments, right? All the missions reoccur in the same areas. You're like basically fighting the same enemies in the same areas and the same.
At first, at
It's
least.
the Dragon Age 2 of...
Yeah, it's the Dragon Age 2 of Halos. And all of those, like, it has almost like no nuance to it. They're like, this is a game where you shoot.
For the world.
This is a game that gives worms. It's an ex-girl. No. It's like, this is a game where you shoot people and you pick up loot and, like, we're going to make you do that forever because it's impossible.
Ever?
It's like impossible.
Forever.
I mean, just reading about how the first group of people who to complete that first raid took like 14 hours or something. Whatever
That sounds
it was.
fun. Oh, I don't want to say go that far. That sounds interesting.
I mean, this is
as
what
Rowan would say.
This is what raiding is like. It's like when you have to like work together in the team, in your little, soccer team or whatever that you're like put together and make sure you have all the right people doing all the right
Jay
things.
and I have
listening and
never,
working together.
neither of us have ever experienced that in our lives.
Band? You've been in a band?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you get a band that you can like rehearse and get the people who are like playing their instruments and not going crazy and you've never had that? They all go crazy?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Yeah, you're not like still in a band.
But
so.
here's
Right.
this is what Destiny made me feel like after they essentially got rid of all the loot stuffs in the beta. I felt like Destiny is a very amazingly designed skee ball machine where the amount of tickets that you turn in for the toys is like basically what you get at a Chuck E. Cheese. You get thousands of tickets and then in return you get like, here's a canister of tennis balls or like some bullshit.
Not
some
even like a fake mustache.
Yeah,
like,
a fake. Yeah, it's no one of those. Not even. It's like one of those Groucho Marx glasses with the mustache, the plastic nose on it.
Yeah.
Some bullshit like that. And that's. I
You
mean,
see
that's,
that Xbox sitting up there?
That's. I mean, for real. I've never thought about it before this, but Destiny is like the skee ball ticket game.
It's
of
stingy.
It's so stingy.
Yeah, so this is the second part of the extrinsic versus intrinsic motivation thing, is that psychologists have found that extrinsic motivation often destroys intrinsic motivation. So everyone says that Destiny like feels good to play. Like it's a well-designed first-person or third-person
No, it's true.
shooter.
I love the melee in it, which I've said before. Like it is very well designed. It feels awesome.
Yeah.
But as soon as you start adding like a reward for playing it repeatedly, as soon as you start adding the leveling up systems, as soon as you start adding the loot systems, then it becomes about those and not about how good it feels to play.
As opposed to Halo.
However, though, it doesn't matter.
Halo
how,
added stuff like that.
it doesn't matter how good it feels to play if they are repeating the same environments and the same scenarios.
But I mean, this is
over
like
and
Rock
over
Band.
again.
If you're repeating the same playlists, like if it's good enough to play, and if you have like a
Here's-
reason to do it, if you're playing it with your wife,
Here's the difference. in Rock Band, there is a right way to play that song and a wrong way to play it. In Destiny, there is no right or wrong way to play a mission or scenario. All you have to do is complete it. So completing that same scenario, it would be the same thing if Rock Band had me play the same song over and over and over again.
I think this is why the people who seem to like Destiny the best are the ones who are playing it to like be super challenging to themselves. The ones who try to play it as a couple levels lower than they should be, or who are playing it on hard, or who are doing the raid thing.
Okay.
Like, those are the people who seem to like it the most. The people who are getting the challenge of, like, trying to get that perfect Rock Band song, and they might well die. But the people who are just, like, doing it in order to get the loot, they're not liking it so much.
That's fine, but Rock Band has 1,000 different songs I can try to do that with. If Destiny had 1,000 different like little environments or mission scenarios that I could play, it would probably keep me. I wouldn't mind repeating some of those a few times. You have your favorites. You have some you don't like so much.
But at what point? When you say to add this variety, at what point then is it moot to say we're talking about repetitiveness?
Because
at what point is that
because
not repetitive
because the
anymore?
goal is still the same, and you are still I think that the complaint is that a lot of the missions and the environments that you complete those missions in are. I mean, there is almost no variety in some spaces.
They think that having the computer have different text when you get the mission, and the thing you click on at the end have different text, it means you're doing different things.
But you're not.
Right.
Yeah.
You're clicking on a thing here.
They're
and
like,
then you're clicking on
they
a thing
think that is enough to tell your brain that you're doing something.
Or actually, what
different,
they
but
really
it's
think is,
not.
oh shit, MMOs are hella hard to make, and this thing needs to come out right now.
Probably.
This is another issue, is that, like, when I brought up the, like, rhythm-based combat... Sorry, I was away from the microphone there.
No, you're good.
Yeah, you sound great.
Okay. With the rhythm-based combat in the massively multiplayer role-playing games, is like that exists in order to create a sort of good segmented way for everyone to have a chance to contribute, either when you're playing by yourself, playing with 2 or 3 people, playing in a dungeon with 5 people, or playing in a raid with 25 people. Destiny is trying to do that, but where you're like shooting all the time.
You know what?
Yeah,
you know what?
right.
I just thought of another aspect of the repetitive gameplay that makes it much more palatable, which is the choice of repeating gameplay. So, like a game like SWTOR, you can repeat a lot of those side missions, like the exact same mission if you want to, with other people. For instance, if we were teaming up,
like the strike missions.
yeah,
and
if
stuff.
if we were Josh, if you and I were teaming up with Chuck.
Do you care?
To play some SWTOR and one of us had not finished a side quest and the other two had, it'll still pop up on your quest log if you share it, and you can do it over again.
Yes.
And then it's like, let's do this mission with Chuck because he haven't finished it.
And that was fun because it was social.
It was fun because it was social.
And it was kind of fun to kick ass also.
But we also have a choice. It's like we could redo this mission or we could do this other mission. In Destiny, it's like, well, maybe I could redo this mission, or I could do this other mission that actually is the exact same mission as the one I'm going to redo. So it feels like no matter what choice you make, you're still replaying the same thing, and that is what is frustrating.
Yeah, I think Rowan said that,
replaying it without much reward.
Yeah, that's another way of putting it.
Yeah. You said that Final Fantasy 14 is that the one you played?
Yeah, that's the
kind of forced you into cooperating with other people, and it sounds like Destiny does that like 100 hours in.
Yeah,
and maybe it should do that a little earlier, because I thought the whole thing with Destiny, based on previews, was that me, as not like a MMO multiplayer guy, could just run around and would automatically be kind of grouped in with people, and we'd be doing stuff. And that only happens on this one kind of specific kind
Defiance
of
has that a lot. Like the big things that happen in Defiance.
I saw someone raving about that game on Twitter.
Friend of the show, Brad Galloway, was just telling people, he's like, hey, if you're not too stoked about Destiny, or if you're bummed out about the loot cave, like, get on
Defiance.
Get on Defiance, because he was saying that's very similar, but it's got a little bit more variety, and it thinks it's a more interesting narrative experience.
Yeah, it's got surprisingly good writing, which is not
That's
something
awesome.
that I've seen anyone say about Destiny.
No, nobody is saying that.
Was
about
Defiance the
Destiny.
one with the TV show?
Yeah.
Is
think
that- what's
think
that out
90s think 90s sci-fi like alien noses, big
Yeah,
alien
right.
noses.
Is that a PC?
It's
Xbox?
PC and last gen.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Are they doing a current gen version? Do you know?
I don't think
You
so.
know?
They went free to play, and it's
Mr.
all
Video
weird
Game
now.
Journalist.
I'm not a video game journalist. I'm a TV journalist.
Yeah.
I hate stories.
I'm a fandom journalist.
That's
now.
true. Jay is now the video game
Yeah.
journalist.
I did do a review this month, and Jay did a review this month. So
That's
we're,
right.
We're,
We
we're
both.
tied.
I reviewed Risen.
should do a
I
review.
reviewed Risen 3 on Game Critics. You can find it there. Feel free to read that. It was
The Eurojank Manifesto.
the Eurojank Manifesto. It was it was tweaked a little bit, but I think for the most part got my ideas out
I
there.
thought that was a really good review. I read it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
And you played the game. Did you think it was pretty accurate based on your experience playing the game?
Yeah. A lot of the parts of the reviews seem to be coming from a Risen 2 place, and I never
Yeah.
played that game, so
I
don't know
get
about
that.
all that. And also, you played it wrong, so you have to consider that when you're reading it. But yeah, it was well written.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Anyway, Rowan. What did you review this
I
month?
reviewed Endless Legend.
Oh, wait,
That's
we should say
right.
thank you, Ethan. I hope that answered
Yeah,
your
that was
question.
Yes.
that was a good question and a good conversation.
Yeah, that was a really good.
Send
question.
your questions to Josh and Jay Show at unwinnable.com. And hit us up on Twitter because sometimes we have stuff going on there at
Yeah.
Josh and Jay Show.
Hit us up anywhere.
You guys want to take a break? I wanna take a break.
Why don't we take a break in
A little bit,
9
but I can
minutes?
talk about the next review that I got suckered into doing because it's for a game that I'm really excited about.
You have 9 minutes.
It is for. So I have. When this podcast comes out, we'll be allowed to air this.
Tuesday.
Because Tuesday is the release day of
Today, you mean?
Today,
Yes.
Tuesday.
Shadows of Mordor comes out today.
Shadows of Sherlock Holmes,
Mordor.
Crimes and Punishments. So right off the
Sherlock
bat,
Holmes.
you guys should love this game because throughout the game he's reading Dostoevsky,
Oh, that's awesome.
but the
pretty cool.
but the
Yeah.
game is called Crimes and Punishments.
That's very. Oh, what?
But shouldn't it be Crimes and Punishment?
No, because they just went full Kirk on this one.
Wait a minute. So I actually saw you were playing this.
Yeah.
And I got all excited. I'm like, I'm going to play Sherlock Holmes so I can talk about it with Jay on the podcast.
Oh, you
and I went
can't.
to my Xbox. I went to the store, and it's not out yet.
Not out yet. I got it very early.
Are you getting death threats?
Not yet.
Okay.
For colluding?
All right.
I haven't colluded.
Send your
yet.
death threats to at Jay Pullman. at
And if anybody wants to collude, send your collusion invites. To,
I colluded.
yeah.
I sent Scott Nichols, a.k.a. Duckles. I said, I can't do this Shadow of Mordor review because they're not giving me a PC code, so you want to do it? So he is going to review Shadows of Mordor for me. I colluded with a member of the press.
Collusion.
And with the guy who started the journal list for games. That was it was like a good combination of corruption. I really enjoyed that.
God, if anybody has if any of these people had ever met Scott in real life, to imagine that he is some kingpin of it is just it's something that only the internet could concoct because it's so devoid of real people.
I really enjoyed his Ask FM stuff. He basically went on the Gamergate hashtag and said, "Hey, I was on this journalist thing for game critics or game journalists, and if you want to know anything about it," and people were asking him some pretty interesting questions, and he was giving really good responses. But then people just there was some dude, or maybe more than one dude, who were just
being
giving him
assholes,
really
I'm sure. Yeah.
horrible accusatory questions, and watching Scott, who's the nicest guy,
Yeah.
steady and all that, watching him get annoyed was pretty amazing.
For sure.
I love that the leaked messages from that thing, from that game journalist inside message board. The thing that this is the most amazing thing was the part of it that leaked was one of the journalists saying, "Hey, don't give any attention to this Gamergate thing, or it'll make everything worse." And I'm paraphrasing, and that's the part that the Gamergate people are see, they're trying to silence it. but that works them up. Like it
Right,
like exactly
it had
what
the
he was
exact,
trying to. Yeah.
It had it was it's that
Like, it was
that's-
more like it was actually passive. It was like, should we not give
should
this
go,
attention?
hashtag irony.
yeah. And like, see, they're trying to like not talk about it in the press to silence us, And it was like, no, it was because you guys are psychopaths.
Yeah. Again, not all gamer gators,
Oh.
but okay.
all of it, all you.
Did you read
Oh,
that?
you guys too. All video gamers in general.
That's true.
Did you read that Cracked article?
Yes.
If you have legitimate concerns about the game press, joining with Gamergate is like joining with Sauron and the armies of Mordor in order to like fight against the feudal oppression of Gondor.
There's also a Cracked article. I don't know if it was that one or maybe the first one they did about it, but where they didn't know about it, and so the article started like, okay, so we spent some time to figure out what this is all about. And we read everything about it, and never have we wasted like so much time.
Yeah, it's like even if all of these accusations are 100% true,
Yeah.
this is really
This
fucking
is the dumbest
stupid.
thing we've ever read. Yeah.
Well,
That was the greatest. That was my favorite thing.
I mean,
That's the best thing to come out of Gamergate.
well, the thing
so far.
that I'm really, I mean, we have to thank Bill Simmons for taking the mainstream media's attention off of stupid Gamergate and focusing on something slightly less, like
legitimate press corruption.
yeah, basically. I mean,
what's the Bill Simmons thing?
well, Bill Simmons went, he's.
I don't read anything that doesn't have Gamergate.
Bill
hashtag
Simmons
on
is
it.
an ESPN anchor who has a pod.
He was a columnist initially, then he became like a TV show.
Okay, wait.
person.
I
He's the
literally
sports
don't
guy.
know. I literally don't know what this is, so I'm gonna guess.
Okay.
Okay, this sounds like a good segment.
N-word.
No, sorry, nothing.
No.
Okay, so Bill Simmons is he's one of like the internet
Victim-
It doesn't matter. Bill
Okay.
Simmons is a personality on ESPN. He also has a podcast, and on his podcast, he was very vocal and straightforward about how the NFL commissioner, how he's like, it was basically like, that guy is full of shit. You know,
He's a liar.
He's a liar. He knew about the domestic violence stuff going on way before they said that he did, and like it was all like sort of a PR cover up. And I mean, you listen to it and you're like, yeah, I mean, sure,
was, right?
That's. I
I
mean,
mean, it's pretty clearly that
nobody. I don't think anybody with half a brain really
Yeah, of
really
course.
thought that
Yeah.
anything else was the case. I don't think that I forget the NFL commissioner's name. Like
Is this not the
Roger
point? Though?
Goodell.
What's the?
the point is that he got suspended by ESPN for saying these things on his podcast.
Oh.
And it's like
it is an ESPN podcast or ESPN related.
yeah, but at the same time, I
Well,
mean,
that's okay. I mean, that's kind of like, that is actually kind of journalism, like what he was doing.
Yeah, like if you go
Yeah,
to,
no, it's messed up, but it's like in there. But you can fire whoever you want, right?
Well, it's
Right?
weird because, like, all right, so the community will bust you if you're not doing real
Right,
journalism,
right,
but
right.
then those in charge will bust you if you're doing real journalism. So, as a journalist, you have no choice but to get fucked either in the face or in the butt.
Can't fire you from a podcast. Can't fire me.
Can't
Can't
fire.
fire us, motherfuckers.
well, the thing.
Fuck
with-
it, we'll do it live.
We're doing it live. I can't read the goddamn. What is this? To play us out. To play us out.
This is the most ridiculous thing about the Gamergate thing is that it's constantly punching down. It's like Bill Simmons was punching up. He was hitting the NFL commissioner.
Yeah.
That dude
Yeah.
makes like
Yeah.
$7 million a year, or about like $30 million
Yeah,
a
yeah.
year. He makes like an insane amount of money every year for basically being a corporate stooge. And Bill Simmons was like, this dude's a corporate stooge. And ESPN was like, holy shit, you can't say that. Like they gave Bill Simmons a longer suspension than they gave the guy who said that the woman who got
Right,
punched
yeah,
out
yeah,
was
yeah,
asking
yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
Like that is insane.
Yeah.
That is insane. That is insane.
But
And
it sounds like people are talking about this.
yes.
that's
Oh,
good.
yeah. I mean,
yeah,
it's
That's a big difference.
it's
right
like
there. I mean.
it's a big like now the community, at least more mainstream media that is focusing on like community outrage is like, oh, now instead of this weird Gamergate thing, now all these people are in support of Bill Simmons because he actually spoke out in a pretty rad way. Like he's a guy who has a voice and he used his voice for good. You know, he made the Paragon Interrupt choice on that podcast,
And that is fairly rare for him.
I'm just saying, it's like it's pretty rad, and the fact that he's being kind of martyred for it or in whatever.
So that sounds
way that ESPN is
all
doing.
good that like people are giving him some support.
All I'm saying is that NPR is like less interested in Gamergate as a result of this.
Good.
That
Yes, all right,
kind of a
good.
thing.
I did like the NPR Gamergate article because it just like gave the harassers no space.
Well, did you go into the comments? And
No.
maybe we'll link to this. I went in the comments, and obviously it was full of people saying like, very disappointed at NPR for only reporting one side of this. And the author I thought was very cool in the way that he went into the comments and addressed at least the first top 10 comments and was like, yes, when it comes to harassment and like threats of rape and violence, he's like, yeah, there is only one side to take. Like, sorry. Like, there is no, like, I'm not debating, like, do you think there is two sides to the Holocaust? You know, like that. It's like that sort of thing. Like if you want a balanced report, I don't know. I appreciated that he very much stuck to his guns to all of these, people trying to bury that as a part of Gamergate. Which I'm sorry, like whether or not you follow Gamergate because you think that video game journalists need to follow some sort of ethics that exist in your head. I'm just saying that that doesn't have anything to do with abuse, and you probably would feel pretty crappy about being lumped in with these people. But guess what? The two are one and the same, and there is no separating the two.
Yeah.
So that's just the way it is. Like nobody made it that way except for all the assholes who spoke out about being okay with harassment and violence that associated themselves with this movement.
It's only
There
a
are
story.
serious and legitimate concerns with video game journalism, and if you ask any video game journalist, they will give you the real ones.
Sure.
Like, they will talk about the PR corruption. They will talk about like low pay, forcing people to scramble and do shoddy work. They will talk about all those things.
I just think
like
that
sleeping with developers, not an issue.
This is only a story because of harassment.
yeah,
It's a harassment story.
Yeah, it is a harassment story.
There's no
and-
story. Nerds upset about video game reviews is not an NPR story.
Well, straight up. I mean, it's a harassment story because otherwise it would not target journalists and developers. It would target the publishers.
yeah.
yeah. Also,
I mean, if it was a question of ethics, you target Gawker Media for setting the
right.
standards for whatever they print. You can't hold the
go after TMZ.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna go off on a Jen Frank tangent, who we at the show love and who has
Jay's
gotten
rant, Jay's
so
rant, Jay's
much
rant.
abuse lately that it makes me disgusted because she's one of the most articulate and beautiful writers to ever write anything remotely
like,
related to video games.
Legitimately the kindest person in the history of the universe.
I mean, video games are. Video games are fucking lucky that Jen Frank has ever been interested in them ever, and seeing the kind of hate spewed at her online is just exactly the kind of thing that is exemplary about why this whole
she
movement
came on the
is
podcast
bullshit.
eating pizza. She didn't remember ordering.
Excellent.
That's my hero.
All right. Well, on that note, we're gonna take a quick break and cool
Oh,
off a
to
little
play
bit.
us out, a track from Sting's new album.
Unwinnable.com, where video games, comics, and pulp culture is what is on our minds. Looking for an analog feel in a digital world? Follow the exploits of the Unwinnable staff through their voices and words every day at Unwinnable.com. Be sure to tune into the Unwinnable Broadcast Network for Unlistenable, the official Unwinnable podcast, Unmixable, our series of mixtapes, and more. Unwinnable. It's good for your brain.
So, the thing about the new Sherlock.
Coming
we
to
were talking about at some point in the recent past.
next gen.
We're talking about reviews, and
How many P's are in this one?
all the P's. This is a Sherlock with all the P's. So, right off the bat, the new Sherlock Holmes game is probably one of the most evolved adventure games I've played in a while, that comes from like the classic point and click adventure game
What do you
school,
mean
I guess.
evolved? Like
I mean
like
that
Walking Dead.
No, I mean that it's evolved mechanically from a model of sort of, sprites that you move around the screen by pointing and clicking your mouse, to a fully rendered 3D experience that translates those mechanics into like basically current generation.
Are you playing PS4?
People have faces and they move.
Yeah, but you move around a 3D environment, like
Right, but are you playing with a controller or mouse and keyboard?
I played with a controller.
Okay.
Play with a gamepad. You can play mouse and keys. I played it on PC.
Oh, okay.
Because I could not get a PS4 code.
And that's why I passed off the Shadows of Mordor.
Which is a bummer. I really wish I could have played this on PS4, but it was like a choice of paying for it and playing it on PS4 or playing it for free on PC, and I chose to play it for free on PC. But the structure right off the bat is super attractive for this kind of a game, which is it is a sort of serialized case-by-case collection of Sherlock mini stories. So it does not have one big overarching story that you follow throughout the game. It's sort of like, I mean, honestly, it's not that different from, say, like the new BBC Sherlock series that has 2 seasons of 3 episodes each.
Have you played the Phoenix Wright games?
No, I have not.
I think that's how they work too.
The BBC Sherlock is high praise.
Well, I just mean the way that
It
it's segmented into 3. It's like 3 episodes that are sort of almost feature film length.
Right.
Each episode is like its own
It's
film.
its own mystery also.
Well, yes, for the most part.
But there's an overall...
In this one, there is no overall thing at
Do you play as
all.
the dog?
You do play as the dog.
Okay.
You are named after the dog. You do play as the dog again in this one, but it's way, way less condescending. When
That was Arnold Connery. Arnold Connery. You do play as the... You're named after the dog.
You're named after the dog. Junior. No, but I loved that it was broken down into 6 cases that all felt like individual episodes, that all had very unique personalities. They're all very unique unto themselves. And, I mean, talk about good variety.
Talk about good variety.
Well, there's...
What's the fun factor?
It's probably
Like an 8 out of 10.
somewhere around there. But the structure is great. All the other Sherlock games revolve around a big overarching story that tend to deflate after the initial like excitement of discovering, like, you know, peeling back the first couple curtains to see what's going on behind the scenes. Eventually, it sort of devolves into, I don't know, something more or less fairly predictable or just not that exciting.
It's the way that mystery stories work, and especially in games where you only have like so much.
Yeah, they wear
space.
out. Yeah, they wear out their welcome pretty
Yeah.
quickly. Like, you feel like I've been treading on this territory for long enough. I'm ready to move on to something else. And so the new Sherlock game, as a result, never gets too stale because each episode or case takes about anywhere between 2.5 to 3 hours. So each one is like a perfect little experience in and of itself.
Is there a thematic continuation between them? Like, is it like Veronica Mars, where everything is about a parent and a child, or
it is more of a mechanical consistency in that at the end of each case, and this is something I'm very torn about with the new Sherlock, but the thing that ties them together is that at the end you can make a decision based on the new version of the deduction board, which I just want to say is such a pleasure.
what's the deduction board and how's this better?
The deduction board in classic Sherlock games.
Classic Sherlock games.
I feel like you're interviewing for a Sherlock video game
Thank
playing
you.
position.
I hope
with
I get-
Rowan.
I hope I get the job.
Here,
So,
what's the deduction board?
okay,
How's it
so
work?
so the deduction boards were literally like a peg board, you know, a cork board, where the clues would go up and you would connect different clues together to form deductions. Like, you would say, oh, we found these muddy footprints, and then we found this guy's boots, and then the combination of those two things meant that this guy was on the property at this time, and so they lead you to conclusions.
Yeah.
Like it's like a physical representation of what is supposed to be going on in Sherlock's brain.
Would this be a fun game to play on the couch with a couple people kind of trying to figure it out together?
It depends. The new Sherlock, definitely much more than the others, and I'll get to why in a second. But going back to the deduction boards, those have been replaced with the deduction space. And the deduction space is a group. It's like basically a sort of representation of Sherlock's brain. It's like neural pathways where the clues become little neural nodes.
So can you affect this with chemicals?
No, but there are chemicals in the game.
Because, Sherlock is famous for having done cocaine.
You can do cocaine in this game.
Does that give you,
It has
a cocaine aspect of the thing? Does it give you a Red Dead Redemption style?
No, it has no effect on the playable Sherlock. I wish it did.
So there's no cocaine bullet time.
No cocaine bullet time.
Have
Wish.
you guys seen the new show? I think it's Showtime, but I think it takes place at the turn of the century, and it's about a surgeon, and he has cocaine bullet time.
No.
Nope. Okay.
The Kinnick?
Sorry.
Maybe
It's the Nick.
Yes,
That's the surgeon show.
Yes,
I don't know if it's pronounced Kinnick or Nick.
they put the pilot on HBO for some reason, and I watched it there.
That's interesting.
Anyway, Sherlock's deduction space takes these clues, and instead of putting them on a pegboard in a very simplified, sort of one-to-one, you have to put them in a certain order or whatever. It was relatively simple, and it was also relatively easy to sort of use process of elimination to come up with the correct answer.
Is the space a 3D space? So are you like...
No.
I just watched Iron Man 3 last night,
Minority
and they
Report.
had the big old brain that they walk into at the start, and the bad guy is talking with the Pepper Potts and showing all the things in his brain.
I don't know if it's similar because I haven't seen that. But,
It's pretty good.
But
It's a little overlong, but it's a pretty good movie.
but
Is it like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
But if I could battle you guys and trying to talk about anything but Sherlock right now.
I'm trying to talk about the space.
We're talking about metaphors. We're talking about connections, references, maybe where they got the ideas.
So the deduction space, like I said, it's neural pathways. So every time you find a clue by either interviewing people through interrogation, you spot clues physically. You have a sort of Sherlock vision that I think they might have taken a cue from the recent BBC show, because it's got that sort of... Ethan Carter uses this too, where you stumble upon a clue and text will float around the clue that's oh, this is something important, and footprint will start to move around the screen, the word footprint in front of...
Oh, the show kind of does stuff like that.
Right, exactly. It's sort of like you have a Sherlock HUD, and Sherlock can see these things standing out that normal people can't.
Does this game look good?
Yeah.
Okay.
It actually does look... It looks better, far better than any Sherlock game I've played before it.
So on a scale of Bound by Flame to Sherlock, what are we talking about here?
We're talking about Sherlock still, so probably Sherlock.
I mean, in terms of looks.
It is a Sherlock game, so...
But you said it looks better, so it's not a Sherlock game. It's a better than Sherlock game.
I
I didn't think they ever looked too bad or anything. I was just wondering if it looked...
It looks like
Okay.
It looks like a legit current gen game.
Okay.
No, everything is either last gen or next gen. There is no current gen
That's true. I tried to play... So it's next gen. I tried to play a Sherlock game many times, but recently... It had a screwed up perspective. You could switch between first and third.
Yeah.
But so the third was Resident Evil kind of style, and then the first was a different. It was real weird.
All right, in this one you can switch between first person and third person, but it's totally not. It's not static third.
So
person.
this game gives you more options than Destiny.
Yes.
All right, then. Sherlock Holmes is better than Destiny. More keys, more perspectives.
You can play it as
The
a
episode title.
You can play it as
Bullet time.
Cocaine bullet time is not bad. So I don't even know what I'm trying to get back to that I didn't get to finish talking about.
Deduction
we're
board.
talking about deduction board. It's a
Okay.
space now.
The deduction space. So in order to
Is it a possibility space?
Would you leave me the fuck alone and just let me finish this already? So you gain clues that populate the deduction space by interrogating witnesses, which is one of my favorite parts because you'll approach these characters, and in order to engage in conversation with them, it presents you with a dialogue option and then also an icon that lets you basically get a physical scan of their demeanor and stuff the way that Sherlock would. So this goes into sort of a faux bullet time thing where you click the icon and then all of a sudden you are scanning their body with like a little reticule for signs that will give you insight into their character. So you scan their clothes and you notice, the sleeve is ripped on his coat, or he's not wearing a wedding ring, but he has a tan line where the wedding ring would be. Things like that. And those all add up to a character profile. And then as you're questioning the character, you can call out their lies by noting these aspects of their character that you find inconsistent with what they're telling you. So like a good Sherlock, you catch
State
them.
Farm
you-
is the...
Like a good Morlock.
But it makes you feel like Sherlock because you're detecting all these things before you start to talk to them. And then it's like you feel like you know who they are before you ask them the first question.
So you
which
are...
I think,
Does
you
it ever
are-
subvert that?
You're Benedict Cumberbunch.
no, you're Sherlock. Benedict Cumberbatch is Sherlock.
Okay.
Does it ever subvert that? Like, you see something about like their class and they're actually a different class? Or...
It doesn't subvert that, but there are definitely like red herrings.
Okay.
Things that may seem important because
But it gives you feel like you have Sherlock brain.
Yes.
That's cool.
So the thing that this game does is that it all of the tweaks that it has made to the last Sherlock game, which was the Testament of Sherlock Holmes, which was the first like real sort of 3D you can play in well, I guess Jack the Ripper was getting there, but
That's the one I played.
it's like it's evolved more, and now they've pared everything down so that there is no bullshit like walking around adventure game stuff. When you play a case in Sherlock and you're at a scene, you're at that scene and the actual area that you can walk around is very limited. So there is no like bullshit walking from one end of the thing all the way to this end of the thing. It's like you're either fast traveling by horse and buggy or you're moving around a very limited space. So you feel like there's very little like superfluous activity. Like all the stuff that you're doing is straight up investigating. Like
That's cool.
Like you're only doing stuff that matters.
Yeah.
You're not dicking around doing a lot of leg work that is unnecessary.
Can you
or stuff
punch
that's
people?
Not relevant. No.
Not a game.
Sorry. It
I'm going to play this on...
Walking simulator.
Is this a $60 game?
It is a $60 game on new hard, but I think it's $40 on PC,
Oh, really?
which will hopefully
I want
go
to
to like
play it on
half
my
that.
Xbox. I want to play it on next gen.
Well, I wanted to play it on
PC
next
is
gen
always
too.
next gen.
But anyway, aside from the great character portraits that really give you a sense of like the characters are all unique. They do not reuse the same trope or trick or anything more than once. Like I felt like everything was just so much more variety than I've ever experienced in an adventure game, except for maybe the lock picking. There's lock picking in this.
So would
is it
you
good?
say that this is the Sherlock game gateway to geekery for the Sherlock series?
I think that
Is this the Oblivion of Sherlock games?
You mean the Daggerfall?
no. Jack the Ripper is the Oblivion of Sherlock
Okay.
games.
Okay.
But this is by far this is on par with Jack the Ripper as far as story goes, and it's better, much better as a game.
And you like this new deduction board like better?
Oh yeah, so the deduction space
Deduction space.
once Why is that so funny?
Because
you guys
because it's taken like 20 minutes to get here again.
Anyway, so finding out things from interviewing characters populates the deduction space, which is it's like a black space with like little, nerve endings or something. And some of those clues give you a choice. You can interpret clues in different ways, and depending on that binary choice, it will like send that neural pathway somewhere else.
Can you go back?
Yeah, you can change all of them at any time.
Okay.
So you can mess with them, and you can actually come to multiple different conclusions where they all work together.
Is there like an objective truth to it, or does it change depending on what you think? Like the Alpha Protocol
that's
thing you were
interesting.
talking to me about.
Okay, here every conclusion you come to is based on objective fact. So the way that but they also give you a choice on how to interpret it, and that is purely like your choice, your personal choice. It doesn't even tell you if it's right or wrong. The scenario and who you chose as the suspect is definitively right or wrong, but at the end it gives you this weird moral choice. And this is the thing I'm really like I don't know about with the Sherlock game, because is Sherlock supposed to be a moral person?
No, not in the not in my only and not in the BBC TV shows, which is all
Not in the Robert Downey Jr. movies.
Sure.
But I just mean in general.
That's what
Rowan's
Jude Law
only
is for.
Rowan's only point of entry is the Robert Downey Jr.
But it's sort of like
Well, only the first one. I didn't see the second one.
But I think that
it wasn't that good.
That Sherlock is like he's not there to pass moral judgment. He's only there to expose the truth.
he's Abed. I mean, he's like
Yeah.
yeah.
So the fact that once you come to a conclusion and you pick out a suspect and it wraps up the case, then it says, okay, well, here's your suspect. Now, is this suspect like did he kill this guy because he really hated him and he's a cold-blooded killer? Or was he a victim of circumstance and you want to cut him a break and let him, like, I don't know, give him a heads up and tell him he should leave the country, or you can have him arrested and eventually hanged. So it puts you in a position to pass judgment, and that makes me feel weird about it as playing the role of Sherlock. Yeah, like Sherlock finds clues, comes to the conclusion, and says, "This is what happened." I don't think it's really up to him to decide whether or not like whether or not that was good or bad, or how good or how bad. You
don't want Sheplock.
I don't want Sheplock. Yeah, I don't. So, I mean, thankfully, that's a very minor part of the game, and it doesn't really affect much. Apparently, these things do add up to something that sort of happens in the end game, but it's very minor and definitely not like the meat of what makes the game great, which is honestly just, again, each environment totally different, from investigating a circus to a botanical garden to like, I don't know, there's a really great like domestic violence sort of thing where you have to parse out what really happened with this sort of millionaire being killed and his wife, who stands to gain all of his stuff now that he's dead, who you find out was also a victim of his domestic abuse. Like it gets you. Nothing is easy on the surface. Like they do a good job of choosing cases that need to be weeded through and parsed apart, and then they do a good job of giving you enough details to like have to work at it.
I think it's kind of cool that like the Sherlock series has slowly become AAA.
This game is barely Eurojank. It's barely
And you
Eurojank.
still like it.
And I do still like it.
What's this studio? They're called Frog something.
Frogwares. I mean,
do you think that there's more interest in these games? I mean, do you think the interest in these games is growing?
I honestly...
Hard to know, knowing you.
Yeah, I honestly have no idea.
They're trying to. Like, I was watching a video on some random site, and that was like the first advertisement was for the Sherlock game, and I was like...
They're definitely at every trade show, you know, talking about these games.
I mean, I would easily recommend this game over, I don't know, probably any other of the other Sherlock games as an entry point, just because it really cuts out anything. Like, you never feel like you're doing bullshit in the game. You're always like, oh, I need to go do this thing, and it's never really that far away. Like, there is no sort of pixel hunting or whatever the new gen version of pixel hunting would be. Like, they're just somehow they managed to cut out that really aggravating downtime that adventure games always seem to suffer from, and I really appreciated that. The other thing is that because there's 6 completely distinct and separate cases, I'm really excited about the possibility of maybe like some DLC for this, because it seems like it would be really easy.
Have they ever done that before?
They've never put out DLC for a Sherlock game, but when you structure the game like this, it seems like a no-brainer to be like, oh, we could just add another case and make it a separate thing. So I have no idea if they have plans to do that.
Why did you hesitate about, I mean, just hearing you describe it or thinking about other modern point and clicks like Walking Dead and stuff, they all seem like really good games to play together.
Well,
on a
Walking
couch.
Dead is barely a game.
Right. So is that why this is not a good cooperative game? Because there's a lot of like gamey stuff, like
there is a lot of
it's not just dialogue choices, and
there is a lot of game. I would say it's like about half and half. Where Walking Dead is maybe like 90-10.
Yeah, Walking Dead has very little walking.
Yeah.
So if there's a lot of
Simulator.
yeah,
Walking simulator.
So if this sounds like maybe there's a lot of walking around, which isn't as fun when you're not actually controlling a character.
The thing is that
But walking is awesome when you are controlling the character.
All my questions about video games for the last couple podcasts are all about like, what can I play with my girlfriend now that we live together?
Well, I would say that the walking around involves much less walking as it does like, oh, analyzing this clue, and then, oh, well, now that I have this clue, just not to beat it like a dead horse, but to go back to the deduction space.
Oh my god! No, that's my favorite part.
So you
can talk about that.
So
all day long.
You're walking around and doing very little walking until you stumble upon a person that you interview, a clue in the environment, something like that gives you, oh, here's a thing. This is like a piece of information, and those pieces of information get logged in like the deduction space, and there's like a halfway point to actually looking at the space where there's clues kind of floating around, and there's like text clues floating around, and you make connections between the two of them, and if you make a successful connection, that creates a node in the deduction space that's like, here's a conclusion that you came to from the clues. And then you take those conclusions and it's almost like a spider web where, okay, well, if I choose, they're almost all binary. So if you choose, one choice for one clue and one choice for another clue, and they agree with each other, then they will like link together and form a more sophisticated conclusion. And so it keeps like, it builds a case. Like you actually feel like you're building a case, a detective case.
And more so than the other games?
More so than the other games.
That sounds fun.
It's more elaborate.
I'm going to check out that and Alpha Protocol. I'm going to check all those out.
I'm sure you will. So while we're still on detective mode, I won't talk about Sherlock anymore, other than to say that there is
Is the deduction board still there?
It's still there.
Okay.
No, deduction space.
Oh, okay.
But you do get to Sherlock does get to do coke in this game, and I don't want to spoil it, but there's a part where you come across a table with white powder, and you're like, that looks like cocaine, and it gives you the option to sample it, and Sherlock takes a spoonful, and like you hear him inhale it, and he's like, tasty, or something like that. He gives
it's first person cocaine.
First person cocaine mechanics, and then Watson comes up, and I thought they were being subtle about it, and Watson's like, Holmes, is that cocaine? Like straight up, and he's like, oh, Watson, like you're such a square kind of a thing. But it's pretty wild because, I mean, for a game that is about murder mysteries and stuff like that, which not all the cases are about murder mysteries, which is also cool. But for a game that is about murder mysteries and has cocaine, it is fairly like not that objectionable. I mean, I know it sounds like it, but when you're actually playing it, you're like, yeah, probably a 12-year-old probably be okay with this.
Well, it's old timey, so it doesn't it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It's like Game of Thrones.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Well,
okay,
nothing could
there's that.
possibly be objectionable.
And the other game you want to talk about, I keep thinking of that John Carter.
oh yeah.
The Vanishing of John Carter.
That
on
already
Mars.
happened the day after that movie came out.
Right.
But Rowan and I played a little bit of The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, which is another detective. I like this Renaissance or
Okay, first of all, how excited are you about this Campo Santo Firewatch game?
yeah, it looks cool. It
Oh
looks-
yeah, that does look really good.
That looked
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I was like, as soon as they started describing it, I was like, Jay's gonna love this,
Yes.
yeah,
and not like a pure sort of love of a child or a cat. Jay's going to like want to take this home and ravish it.
It's like
Yeah.
Twin Peaks Walking Dead, right?
Yeah,
I want to pull its hair a little,
yeah.
give it a little spanking.
Well, what are you guys playing? Alan Partridge.
We're playing The Vanishing of Alan. Oh my god!
What is it called?
Oh my god! The Vanishing. That's the
It's
knowing me,
something-
knowing you.
It's something like
Right? That's the Alan Partridge?
Alan Partridge.
Oh, God, I love Alan Partridge. But this is The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, and this game is sort of a weird combination of, like, it's like Myst meets that Murdered Soul Suspect game I was playing.
I feel like someone like played Gone Home and was like, let's make this like a game that no one will complain about it being not a game.
that. Why? Does it take place in a
Maybe.
house?
No.
Can
No,
you
that's
punch
part of-
people in the face?
No, but there are like traps that seem like they might kill you.
I have not found a single mixtape yet. So
What is this game?
Okay, it's a
Why aren't I playing this
it's
game?
it's
Because it's an
a
adventure game.
I like adventure games.
No, you
it's
don't.
a
Yes,
it's
I
a,
do. I like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy,
It's a game
Planetfall,
where
Mind
you
Forever Voyage. There's so many adventure games I like.
it's a game where you like you're in a space
Zork.
and you wander around the space.
Walking simulator.
Yes, except it's a game changer.
Walking simulator.
Well, I played all
It's
the
a-
Walking
it's a-
Deads.
It's a walking simulator with a run button.
Yeah, it is. It is
Game changer.
It is a
Game changer. Like you hold down shift, you fucking run.
Yeah, it's pretty rad. It's it is.
Leather Goddesses of Phobos.
That's our episode title.
That's an actual game.
I know, but
Secret of Monkey Islands.
secrets.
Monkeys
Secret of
Island.
Monkeys Island.
Secrets of Monkeys Island.
Like how we all decided to correct and make that joke. So you know what? I could do it better.
So in The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, it straight up as soon as you load the game, it's black screen with text that says this game does not hold your hand.
Which is such fucking bullshit.
It is total bullshit, but
It does hold your hand.
But it's there to let you know that you can.
Fable 3.
It's like Myst. You can just not know what to do.
Yeah. When you say Myst, is it like Myst? Does it look like Myst?
Yeah.
Is it first person, but is it like
No.
Might Magic where you like move one space forward?
No.
Okay.
It's like that new
It's-
Myst where they made it in
It's
3D.
It's like Gone Home,
Okay.
where
Yeah.
like you wander around a space that exists for you to figure out what the hell is going on within that space.
And it's a mystery. type
Part
thing?
of the game is to figure out what to do in the game.
Okay, what kind of adventure game is this? Is this you pick the thing up and then you try to use it and like you can't use the key
Nope.
with the apple?
It's a lot simpler than that.
A lot simpler.
So in a certain respect, it's less of a game than Gone Home, which was it was inspired by Deus Ex and System Shock and immersive Sims, where you can pick up everything. You can't quite pick up everything in Gone Home, but you can pick up a lot of things, and you like throw them all in the bathtub or whatever.
Is there a key you can press to highlight all the things you can interact with?
It automatically does.
Oh.
Well, supposedly. That's my issue with it, but we'll get to that. But it's kind of like a mix between like a Gone Home and a Dear Esther. It's got
Whoa, with that's nothing and nothing though. This is
nothing from nothing.
You said this was
equals
more of a game.
But it feels like it's more of a game
Oh.
because the spaces are bigger. Like you start out in a forest. And
It's
you
very thematically, it's very Twin Peaksy in the sense that you are in a big like wooded, forested area. It's like a Red Creek Valley where there's you could see like a bridge in the distance, but it's like, I mean,
Do you just observe like in Gone Home, or do you?
No.
Okay, you do stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
you interact with the environment, but your character is like sort of a pseudo psychic detective.
Yeah.
First person.
As you approach clues, because he's got these pseudo psychic powers, you see the Sherlock text over clues. And the game right away spits you out into an area where there's like train tracks, so right away you have a visual cue of where to go. Like, this is your general direction of where you should go. Follow the train tracks. If you explore the area around the train tracks, and again, the area feels a lot bigger than the space that you can actually explore is.
Yeah,
So you can't get that too far off of the path.
it's on rails. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah.
No, I think that's sort of an
it's
intentional
on
thing.
it's on a railroad.
Yeah. And if you look in a mirror, can you see yourself or no?
I don't know. I haven't
We
seen
haven't
a
gotten the
mirror yet.
mirrors. We're still outside.
Okay.
So you're outside. You start to if you go off the path, you run into these booby traps, and every time you examine a booby trap, and this is how you examine other clues in the game. It gives you like a little. It sort of does this thing where it tears the screen a little bit, and you see a little bit of like
No VSync.
of like a premonition. And then the more of these booby traps you find, it reveals more of that picture. Sort of like swaths on a painting, like, oh, now I can see this upper left corner, and now I can see the middle. And eventually it paints the whole picture and puts you in this scenario where it reveals like more of the narrative of
Yeah,
what's
and
going
then you like
on.
step through.
Yeah,
and-
it doesn't sound like a Josh kind of game.
Is it a J kind of game?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Oh, you like it,
Dude.
Oh, you sound like you're not liking it.
No. This is my jam. Like
okay.
when game mechanics equal narrative exploration,
Right.
that is my jam.
Okay.
Like when me performing game mechanics equals revealing the narrative and like narrative progression, that is my jam.
Okay.
Like that I love. That's an adventure game, and I think I saw our all good friend of the show Ben Abraham cursing this game about how he's like, oh, so I click on a thing and then it shows me some bullshit narrative thing. Why do I want to do that? What a bullshit game! And I wanted to be like, dude, have you ever played an adventure game?
But wait,
I
but
don't know
what other
which-
adventure game is like that though? I mean,
I
I'm
don't
trying to-
know. I don't know which exactly part Ben was playing, but I had an aspect of it where the like we don't handhold at all thing seemed like it was actually a really big negative. Like I was like, okay, Ben, I don't know what you're talking about here. But then I got to the second part, like the part where you go to the booby traps and you like examine them, and it's like, okay, that's a little weird. And then you go to the second one, it's like, oh, it's giving me more now. So the more of these I get, the more I'll see. So
Yes.
it like processed that pretty well.
It is a little bit of a tutorial, like,
Yeah.
without being a tutorial.
And I think the first part is pretty effective at that. But the second part, I went to a section of the game where you start to see where a murder or something took place.
Yeah.
And
well, you find a body.
yeah, you find a body.
You
and
find-
it seems
well,
to
you
be
find-
in pretty bad shape.
You find body parts, and then not that far away from those body parts, you find the rest of the body.
Yeah, so it looks like there are some, pretty bad things going on. But, and then you click on them and it's like says, oh, hey, there was probably a train car here and the train is up there. And then there's probably a train part. Where's the train part? Oh, it's over here. And you go and put all that together.
Yeah, that's
And then-
very classic adventure game. You find the piece to do the thing.
that
and
is-
then
yeah,
move the
yeah, yeah.
thing.
and it's done very cleverly, but then it was like, okay, what can I do now that I have like everything apparently in the right place? And you go and you touch the body, and it's like it shows you this like psychic power screen of like there's potential for you to get more from the body here, but then what? And this is the problem that I had, was that there was no then what. Like, I was wandering around all the space where all this stuff was taking place, and I did not see a new thing. I did not see a different thing. There was just, like, a thing that I was supposed to do. So I went and I looked at a walkthrough. And the walkthrough
Oh,
says, you go to a stump, and there's a thing next to the stump that you're supposed to click on. I went to the stump. There was nothing.
No, that's because you missed a step because you looked at a walkthrough.
No, I looked at the walkthrough after.
No, you
Like, I spent like half an hour wandering around.
Just let me just rewind a little bit to say that that narratively the purpose of this is so that your character, if he can put the elements of the environment back the way they were before the crime took place,
Right. Gotcha.
Then
he can construct what
then
happened.
he constructs what happened. So it's like if you move the train back to the
But
position.
this is the opposite. I did that and it didn't show up. It was only when I went back further and I moved the train back to some other place that I started to see the thing I was supposed to see.
That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
Because I played this. Well, it sounds like your game is bugged.
I think the game is bugged. I don't know how the game is bugged, but the game was not reacting in a way that it was supposed to. The game, like, the stump is not very close to the other things that I could move around. So I went over and I was supposed to look at this thing next to the stump. I didn't see it. I moved the train around. I didn't see it. I moved the train a lot. Then I saw it. But, like, it was not
do you
showing
move
up
a
for no
train?
good reason. Like, you press a lever.
Well, that's
Start
part
the
of the
engine.
that's part of the game. Is like you have to. I mean, it works up very slowly. It's like you approach. I mean, these are very mild spoilers because this is literally like the first hour of the game.
Yeah.
But
This is probably a pretty short game, though, right?
I have no idea. But you approach a train car that you see on the tracks. You see that it's got blood on the front of it, and then you notice that it's got a crankshaft that's missing a crank. And then if you examine that, it gives you a little premonition of like where the crankshaft is currently sitting. Like it gives you a view of where it currently is, and then you have to go find where that spot is in the environment.
And when you're wandering around the game,
And this is fun for you?
Dude, it's yeah,
Okay.
it is.
if you're when you're wandering around the game, like if you see a thing that you can investigate, the text will pop up. So you'll see a thing that says like inspect, or you'll see the name of whatever it is. Like there's a gas canister on the ground.
I got you.
And you
it sounds like you missed something and got ahead of yourself and then had to go back.
Well, yeah,
except
that's-
that the thing wasn't there when I went where the thing was supposed to be.
Honestly, the way that Rowan, the way you're talking about it is like I think you are. I don't know.
Try restarting your computer?
Like it doesn't. It sounds like you just didn't do it right.
But it sounds like the game made it extremely easy for me to not do it right.
I don't think so.
No, I think it did. Like, I did the things that I was supposed to do according to the
Are
language
either
of
of
the
you
game.
reviewing this game?
No.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, all right. If you don't want to be spoiled on this game, then you can probably just turn it off right now because I want to get into this little
I don't want to be spoiled on this
nitpicker
game.
thing.
Yes, you do. You're not going to play it.
I might play it.
So, Rowan, you're specifically talking about where you have to move the train car to.
No. I was able to do that. When I moved the train to where the train was supposed to be, I got out of the train car, and I was like, okay, what do I do now? So I went over to the body. The body was like, we're not ready for whatever reason. So then I went to the walkthrough. The walkthrough says you go to the stump, you find a rock next to the stump, you put the rock
See, you're
where it's
missing.
supposed to be.
You're missing a spot. You're missing.
What am I
something.
missing? What
You're
spot am I missing?
You're missing the part where you approach the area where you find the divot where the rock used to be.
No,
Yeah.
no. I found you have to find the rock first.
No, you have to find the divot first. Otherwise,
No,
the rock will not show up.
I did no divot before I found the rock.
Okay, well, that to me sounds like you did it way wrong. Like that's not the way it's planned
I
out.
walked by both where the rock is and where the divot was
In-
multiple times. There was no text that popped up that said this is a thing you can investigate.
In my game, the rock was not able to be interacted with until you found the divot. You have to find the divot first, and then like all the other clues where you see, like for instance, where you were looking for the crank, and you found that spot where the crank should be on the train car, and then you have like 8 different words of crank like floating around, but then if you point them in the right direction, they will converge on the direction where it is. Same thing with the rock. If you click on the divot, then the word rock with a question mark pops up like 10 different words of rock.
Yeah.
And they're all floating around. And then if you point towards the tree stump, they converge and let you know that that's where the rock is.
I walked by both where the divot was and where the rock was multiple times, and nothing popped up until eventually, like, I happened to get it right. And I think that is an issue with the fucking game and not with the fucking Rowan. Like that is the game. Being like,
Were you just running around?
I was walking around, running
Were you
around,
just
whatever.
were you just running around and never really explored that spot where the divot was that well?
Rowan, are you sure you want to get into this? Did you know that this is Jay's jam?
Jay's Jam has some issues. Jay's Jam has a part of the game that is not very clear, and that's putting it mildly. Jay's Jam has a thing that
What does Josh, as a third party, does this sound any
I
more difficult than like Myst?
I don't know, guys. It sounds like it's probably broken. It might not be. I don't know. I don't care. I don't.
All
Well,
right.
I kind of want to play it now, if that helps. You guys did a good job earlier of making me want to play it.
Yeah, like it does. It does some cool things with the idea of like the emergent game teaching you how to play it.
I want to play it
that
now.
sort of
I'll
thing.
play it, and then we'll know. I'll be like the guinea pig.
Yeah.
Except now you know that there's like a thing that's.
I literally
hard to
haven't
see.
heard a word you guys have said for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I
Well,
believe
that's
that.
probably true.
Train.
I'm not worried
Train
about
is
I'm
all
not-
I
yeah,
got.
I'm
All I
not
got is
worried
train.
about I
Train.
replayed that first section again because when I did
Because you
that
did
whole,
it wrong.
No, because when all right. On that note, let's call it a day. We're good.
Thank you so much for listening to the Josh and Jay Show featuring Rowan Kaiser.
Fuck yeah.
Shoot us an email, joshandjayshow@unwinnable.com. Hit us up
Shit.
on Twitter at Joshua Doan, at Rowan Kaiser, at Jay Pullman, at Josh and Jay Show. Did I already say that?
Probably.
Thank you so much for listening, and we'll
And
catch you on the flip.
catch you on the flip side. And on that note, Rowan's wrong. See you later.